podcast. Hope everybody's having a great start to their week. We have a lot to get into today. We're going to be talking some high school recruitment news, major flip from number one tight end in the 2024 class, Landen Thomas. We're going to get into that. More news around the recruiting world, some major schedules as well. And then we'll get into video replay actually being unanimously approved by the GHSA, was approved and voted on last night. So we'll get into that. And obviously Khalil Barnes and others balling out in their spring games. Guys we've seen this last year playing high school football, but they're balling out in their spring games in college. So good signs for them. And then we'll get into some NBA action, obviously. And a major development out of Forsyth County as well, them potentially getting a new stadium to allure a NHL franchise. So we get into all that in a little bit. But Craig, how are you feeling today?
Feeling good, yeah. I did not expect to see that in the headlines this morning. That's huge. Looking forward to talking about that.
No, major. And real quick on that, I'm just kind of surprised that it's only 18,500. I think that's a little bit low. I think they should go for more, maybe 25, 30. I think 18,500. I mean, the renderings of it looks great, but I don't know if that's big enough.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, with the battery, obviously you go to a Braves game there's thousands of people out in the park area.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll probably have like a viewing setting, things like that. Maybe that's what they're expecting in terms of keeping the capacity a little smaller. But yeah, I thought it'd be more at the 23, 24.
Yeah, we were in the same ballpark. But let's go to high school first and foremost. Hunter Till, I don't know if you heard this news, but he actually committed to Miami of Ohio this past week. Just what do you think of the news? One, obviously, I seen a post from Jeremy's dad saying hopefully they can have the kind of Mahomes and Kelsey kind of season this upcoming year for high school football. So what do you think about that and him coming into Miami of Ohio?
Sorry.
Not fun.
I think that is a great comparison. If you look at Hunter Teal last year, he actually led Walton in receiving yards, and that's what he was so dangerous at. He wasn't necessarily their big their big red zone threat. Man, I'm hurting today. Give me a sec.
No worries, I'll keep going. But no, Hunter Till for Walton was real.
Need a cough drop.
Good.
All right, I think I'm good.
All right.
So last year, I think he had over 900 yards. If you watch that Walton offense move, they average about 320 passing, 170 rushing. Obviously, he's blocking, he's doing his thing, but he was really key in helping them just sustain drives, move down the field, have those quick short routes, similar things you see Mahomes and Kelsey kill teams with. And then you look at the receiving core, Wyatt Sangerman, he was huge in terms of the touchdown production. Hunter only had 4. So I think that's the step you're going to see this next season. He'll get more catches in the red zone, but in terms of just impacting the game, he quietly did every single time Walton went out there. And that offense, let's just look at it. You have Makari Bodiford coming off a 1,500-yard rushing season. He was underrated in that offense. You have, another player, Cameron Lloyd. He's going to be huge this upcoming season.
Slot receiver for them.
Yep. You have Wyatt Sonderman, Hunter Teal, and Cameron Lloyd. I think Hunter Teal is going to be able to get his opportunities. And, yeah, he's just a big-time playmaker. He catches everything, and he's good at kind of improvising. He's not necessarily running these rigid routes. He's just finding the open space, and then he has such a good connection with Hecklinski. They've been playing together forever.
I think Hunter will actually be the X factor for this upcoming season because you think about it, you look at their team. Cameron Lloyd's kind of your slot. He's the speedster for you. He could take, a short hitch. He could take a slant and take it to the house. Wyatt Sonderman is good with the intermediate routes, getting in and out of his breaks. And then, Hunter Till is going to obviously be kind of that downfield threat, as far as getting over the middle of the field, getting easy throws, getting out of Hecklinski's hands fast. So I think, man, like I said, that's been an offense we've been talking about all summer. And all spring actually, of keeping eyes on. So I'm curious to see how it culminates together.
Yeah, and just think about the opportunities that it opens up for Bodiford running the ball when you have Hunter Teal able to just go out there, not only catch those passes, but then make a big play out of it. So yeah, he is invaluable. I 100% think we'll see similar things this upcoming season in terms of keeping that Walton offense moving. Defenses are going to have to know where he is. And, man, he came up with so many big catches. They weren't the ones that we remember, like the big Aiden Jackson touchdowns. But in terms of just hauling in those key third down, even fourth down catches, and making sure the offense keeps moving. He was unbelievable last year.
No, definitely, and something to watch out for this season. So we get to see it multiple times. We get to see in the Corky Kell Classic game that they're going to play against Grayson, and we'll get to see it again in the Corky Kell 7-on-7. So can't wait to see that and find that out. But other major news: Landen Thomas for Colquitt County, number 1, 2024 tight end, number 5 in the state of Georgia for the class. Flips his commitment, was committed to Georgia. He is going out to Florida State. And we're going to bring up, obviously, the graphic here in just a second. But I think what they're doing, they have a top 5 class. I think you cannot sleep on what Mike Norvell is doing as far as the recruiting world. Letting some of these top prospects, he has over 5 recruits from Georgia going to his school that following season. So just what do you think of that? And what do you think of him flipping his commitment?
I like how aggressive they are. Obviously, Colquitt County, that's a southern Georgia team. Florida State typically does well in South Georgia with the Valdos's, Lowndes, Colquitts. But I think it's huge. One, him flipping from Georgia to Florida State, that actually bumped Ohio State up to number 1. And that is also in part to Aaron Nolan committing to Ohio State. He's the lone Georgia guy. But, yeah, Florida State's been really aggressive in recruiting from Georgia. And I just think that top 5 is looking really good right now.
No, for sure. And actually, guys, we're going to take a quick look at it. We're going to share the screen with you guys so you guys can see it as well. Just how great they've been doing as far as their commitment. So
yeah, they got
let's take a
Luke
look.
from Benedictine. Cameron Davis is unbelievable.
I mean, that's a big one. Landen Thomas, tight end, Colquitt County, as we just mentioned. Luke Cromenhawk from Benedictine is big. Let's see who other Georgia commits they got, because they got actually multiple. Here it is right here. Okay, BJ Gibson. This one was recent. He committed on the 15th, actually. So big 6-foot athlete, goes to Wilcox County High School, 4-star composite. I mean, I think this was a big get for them as well when you look at it. And then you got CJ Hurd. You can't sleep on him either from Woodward Academy. I mean, landing that safety, they've had him since July, hasn't decommitted or anything. Pretty much locked and loaded since last summer for them. So, I mean, I think they got a really good class, and I mean, they got some top prospects. Number 5 right now, according to 247 Sports in the country. So I think they're going to be really good.
Yeah, completely agree. I think with Landen, though, you can just see the type of role. He's going to be that he's a true pass catcher. He's considered the best pass catching tight end in that class. He'll be moving around pre-snaps. He'll be basically dictating what the defense has to react to, and then his size is tremendous. So I think he's going to be a big impact player. He's obviously the top recruit in that class that's driving them up to number 5 in the country right now. But yeah, they're doing a really good job. And you talked about the Wilcox County kid, an athlete. You play in the lower classifications in Georgia. You're playing both sides of the ball. You're doing everything. We saw it in the state championships with, Danella Jones. He's playing quarterback. He's playing in the secondary. So you're getting a guy that, exactly. Yeah. One of the better athletes in the state. So really impressive for the Seminoles.
For sure. And then major news from GHSA. If you guys don't know what that is an association, essentially. They basically, they're in charge of all the sports that goes on in the state of Georgia. They're responsible for, referees, different bylaws, regulations, and stuff like that. So they actually, if you guys didn't see the play, go to Score Atlanta's TikTok or even my own TikTok or Twitter alone. Sandy Creek ended up winning the game. I mean, it's pretty clear cut that the guy did not get in. I don't know what the back judge was looking at, but they unanimously approved for video replay in state championship games, which I think is big. And they're actually test running it in the Corky Classic this upcoming year, which event we'll both be at. So just what do you think of the unanimous approval? And, do you think it's good for, Georgia football?
Yeah, it's exciting. We actually had Atlanta News First was in here interviewing IJ earlier about it. I like that it was unanimously passed. That's a good sign. The only detractors I've seen, people make the argument somehow saying it's not fair unless it's every game. It's like, well, it's every championship game. So I'm pretty sure that's okay. But I think it's going to be interesting how it rolls out in terms of the decision is going to be coming from the booth, the replay booth in a sense. So there's going to be an extra official in communication that's able to review plays. So that is a responsibility. That's something that's not typically in the training, but obviously the various referee associations are going to be working out on getting the guys that they feel are best fit for that. I'm excited to see it rolled out in the Corky Kell. And then, yeah, I mean, there's human error in things. This is a way to get it fixed. And
Yep.
I think people are going to be pleased with it.
Yeah, and I think too, just to go back on your point, I think it's kind of tough as well, to have it rolled out in every game, right? Because you got to start from somewhere. And I think it's good because it's the biggest games, right? State championships, everything on the lines for you to win a state title. So I think that's a good start. But as you said, there's so many places in Georgia where high school football goes. You got 7A, 6A, 5A, 3A, 4A, 2A, 1A. It's hard to roll it out in every game. But I think in the games that matters, for sure, you definitely want to have it present. So I think it's just the start. Obviously, I think it'll expand more. And I think it is a big, big thing for them. And I don't know if you heard too, but there's been rumors and rumblings around NIL for high school players.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Wow.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's interesting. I know they also pushed aside they were going to vote on the middle school recruiting rule, but they tabled that because they didn't have time. So, yeah, there's some interesting conversations going on in high school for sure. The NIL thing would be massive. I think that would play into the recruiting thing in a sense. I mean, bigger opportunities at bigger schools, similar to college.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a big deal. But I think with the one more thing on the instant replay, there's two different challenges. One is the equipment. You'd obviously have to have the video replay, the system to where you could even do that. But then there's a referee shortage. We saw in the playoffs. Once the crew expands, we had to go to 2 different days. So there's not even enough referees to do it. But I think making it to where there's one official that's handling it, that's going to make it easier to potentially get to that spot, because then the systems of replay could be different. Some school might have 5 cameras, some might have 4, but every school would have one guy reviewing it. And so I think that'd be the first step. And then hopefully in the future, as things advance, the technology would be comparable across the schools.
No, I agree. Hopefully it will be. And hopefully, like you said, I think it's a build-up process, because now think about it, a couple of years ago, the players, they couldn't really see like the film on the sideline, right? They had to just go and look at the film after the game. But now you have players, they have the technology where the coaches, they can look at it instantly and see, okay, hey, you missed the coverage here, or hey, you missed this tackle here. Here's how to, do this. You see it all the time at games. But then, that took time. So I think it's the same thing with instant replay. Eventually, I think the equipment will be in, and I think that'll be huge. But I want to go real quick, too, to the point about NIL. And I want to ask you this, Craig. Do you think that would actually ruin the game? Because you hear some coaches obviously complain about the recruiting and transfers coming in from different schools that weren't really their schools they grew up with. Do you think that would ruin the game potentially if players are getting like, hey, okay, come to my school, we're going to pay you $50,000 for your name, image, and likeness? Like, do you think that would ruin like high school football and the amateurism of the sport as a whole?
Well, I think it would be interesting if it happened in Georgia, because you might see guys moving in from out of state, and then
that's a good point.
Yeah, and then that could displace you. That's your team you grew up in, and next thing you know, you have a move in. That's
a good point.
Yeah, a young starter. So I think that would be the biggest threat.
Right.
But I mean, there's always teams that are gonna be homegrown and home built, and then they're gonna square off, and sometimes that gives them the advantage. But I don't know. Things are definitely progressing quickly. I do think anyone that says a player is not allowed to profit off their names, I think that's a hard thing to argue. But just in turn, I mean, if you're a 5-star in high school and you want to hold a camp or you want to hold an event, I just don't see why that's a problem. But yeah, if it gets to the point where schools are literally paying kids,
I think that's the part that worries me.
100%.
I mean, other than that, like you said, if you, I think you should be able to profit in some ways off of your name. But that's the part that worries me. Like
because I feel like once the NIL, it's a specific thing, but I mean that literally could just lead to the point where your booster club is, hey, we're gonna rent out this townhouse. We'll pay for your rent for the entire semester, and it's just like that's a good deal. You're a young working family or whatever, you got one kid. I don't know, it's not a bad deal, but things have come a long way. Think about how long it took just in basketball for them to get a shot clock. That just happened a couple years ago. A shot clock, that's not instant replay,
right?
It's just a clock. And so yeah, the shot clock, the instant replay, things are definitely getting up to speed.
No, definitely. So I think just my last point on this, I just hope that again it doesn't affect like the lower schools because obviously they already they have limited players. Them playing have to play both sides as compared to probably the higher classifications, the 5As, the 6As, the 7As. So I think that's my biggest hope is that it doesn't hurt them potentially, but it's going to be something to watch, and they're definitely going to have some kind of regulation in place where it doesn't, affect the schools. I think.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Every county, operates differently. Honestly, I think one of the things that I saw that kind of woke me up to that reality is the turf fields. Um, Steve Jones, he used to be the Cobb County athletic director, and then he became, I believe, a rep for sports turf. So from the funding perspective, he understood what it takes for a county and a school to get the funds, calculate what's the return, having artificial versus this, and then he would create a model. And then once that was successful, other counties were able to do it, and it wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, this school paid all this money for this field. It's like, no, it made sense for them. It was an investment that helped out. So I think just a similar sort of thing. But yeah, every county is different.
No, for sure. So it's gonna be intriguing. So keep it tapped here. I mean, we'll have obviously any live updates. We will definitely share it with you guys and let you know what's going on as far as the high school world goes and any major developments in any sports. So keep it locked there. But we got a former high school player at Norfolk County committed, I think, December. His name is Khalil Barnes. He's already enrolled at Clemson. Balled out in the spring game, had a pick six. He already had teammates there, a freshman of the year last year for them, a DB already kind of commending Khalil Barnes and saying that he's definitely going to play with us in some capacity next season as a freshman, as a true freshman, whether it's special teams or playing on the back end. So, I mean, just what do you think of that? And actually, you had his coach on yesterday, Tyler Arndt. Just what do you think of that interview you had with him and then him talking about his player?
That play was so incredible. There's like a minute 47 left. It's a tie game. It's first down. So you're at the game, you're watching it, you're thinking, okay, this is a 2-minute drill situation. Maybe, obviously it's a spring game. Isn't necessarily the first stringers. You aren't necessarily throwing everything at them, but at the same time, they obviously were trying to get a drive going, and he just jumped the route, picked it off perfectly, took it to the house, game over. You can't have a bigger play than that. Thought it was extremely exciting. He's a guy that I made the mistake of asking, I wonder if he's going to play offense or defense because he was so good at both. But clearly, that guy is meant for that position. It was an incredible play. Doesn't get any better than that. And what an exciting way for him to just kind of get on campus this first semester. The rest of his classmates are still at North County. He's a class of 2023 guy, and he's up there scoring pick sixes at Death Valley. Doesn't get more excited than that.
No, it doesn't. And he's getting right before the summer comes and workouts and before the season kicks off and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's huge. And shout out to him and good luck obviously on the next level. Obviously, we'll be watching to see how he continues to progress in his career. Another player too that stood out was obviously Deuce Alexander. He's already early enrolled as well at Wake Forest. He played for Douglas County this past season. 6 catches, 72 yards, and a touchdown in the spring game. So just what do you think of his play and him just balling out at Wake Forest?
I shouldn't be too surprised because he was one of the only players this entire football season that was able to get out there on the field with Hughes and make big time plays, just unfazed by it. Yeah, stepped up huge in terms of the turnovers. Gosh, he had a great year. So, I think it says a lot that that's a big time performance.
No, I think it is too. Like you said, just to prove back what he did against Langston Hughes, who won it all, right?
Yep, in that first half especially.
Exactly, multi interception game. I think that was the first only probably game Prentice Nolan the whole season had multiple interceptions.
Yep,
because I think he only had 4 or 5 for the season. So that goes to show you how talented he is. But yeah, man. Shout out to him. We love seeing the kids ball out on the next level, especially at the spring games and things like that. So I can't wait to see, man, how they continue to ball. But other college news, he's getting a lot of criticism right now. Arch Manning the kind of 5-star recruit, number one player in the country. They say he didn't perform too well at the spring game. So just what do you think of that news? And do you think it's a little, obviously a little too early to say if his career will be good, but it looks like Quinn Ewers will be the starter potentially for the regular season. They said he balled out, was throwing dimes. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, clearly there's going to be a quarterback battle. No matter how highly recruited you are, I don't think that necessarily guarantees you're going to be the guy right away. So he obviously comes in with the name recognition, the high status number one quarterback. But I mean, Texas definitely has some depth at that position, and you got to go with the reliable hot hand. Same thing we saw at Georgia with Stetson Bennett.
I agree. And speaking of Georgia, how do you think about that QB battle? I heard Carson Beck was throwing some dots over the field in their spring game. Who do you think's gonna, come out on top? A couple Georgia guys from Georgia high schools, Carson Beck, Brock Vandegrift. Who do you think's gonna come out top after that QB battle?
I think it's got to be wide open. I like Brock. I thought he showed some speed running the ball, and he was always just he's one of the toughest kids I've ever seen play high school football, honestly. Early in his career, he'd have a season where he's kind of playing like Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton, of course, broke the Georgia all-time record for touchdown passes and I think total touchdowns too. Just ridiculous numbers, like 78 rushing touchdowns, 80 passing.
Right.
Things where over a 4-year career, you're basically averaging 5 touchdowns a game. That's like impossible. Brock Vandegrift was a similar player like that, except I think he played his entire either junior or sophomore season with a torn ACL. So he had to go into more of a passing quarterback. But before that, he was running in just as many as he was throwing. And so I think he has that ability. I think he's a really athletic kid. He's tough, he's strong, and obviously was the player that put Prince Avenue Christian on the map, which they're still playing incredible. I mean, you have Coach Rick's son as the offensive coordinator at Prince Avenue. They're producing numbers that no other high school has ever seen. 3 1,000-yard receivers. I think they've done it 3 times now. And he comes from that system, and those kids are tough. I mean, look at what Bailey Stockton did in this. I mean, that's where Brock Vandegrift comes from, a place where kids are playing with a broken arm and stiff arming people. I mean, I think that's what Brock Vandegrift has. So I think that competition won't be over.
No, and I think regardless of whoever comes out on top, obviously the kid that doesn't probably will end up transferring, but I think they'll have gained a lot of invaluable experience at UGA and obviously, backing up and learning from, some of the top coordinators in the game. So I think that'll be obviously crucial going forward for them. So I'm curious to see, man. Georgia has a lot of, I would say a lot, but I have a couple question marks there at certain positions. So it'll be interesting to see how
Brock Bowers play?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, he played.
Yeah, I was watching some of the games. I didn't get to watch the first half of that one. So, yeah, Georgia's obviously going to be interesting next year. But, yeah, the big question marks at quarterback.
Yeah.
I like Brock. I like his toughness. And if Georgia comes out and they have some question marks on offense, you might just need that guy that's going to be willing to go out there and put it on the line.
Totally agree. I mean, it's going to be intriguing. But any other news in the college or high school realm before transition to professional that you saw that you want to talk about?
I don't know. Let's talk about the lacrosse rankings. Anything that stood out? You dropped those today. That's going to be really exciting. And, yeah, just talking to the football coaches yesterday, there's obviously a ton of football guys playing lacrosse. The sport's growing like crazy. This year's been insane.
Yep.
I think we're going to see some historic results in the playoffs where teams that typically haven't been able to make a run to the title are going to be able to do it this year. This is a sport where few programs have kind of dominated it. Lambert on the boys' side, Milton on the girls' side, your Blessed Trinities, Westminsters, but it's just exploding all across 7A and the other classes.
For sure, and no major differences at the top for me. West Forsyth, they've continued to show that they're a top team. I think 15-1 at this point. They picked up 2 wins this past week. North Paulding, they beat Wheeler, and then they picked up a key region one you brought up to my attention when they played Walton. So they lock up area 2. So I kept them at number 2. Lambert's still at number 3. They're close on their trails going into the playoffs. Obviously, I think they've won probably 16, 17 state titles in lacrosse last 5. So obviously, I got to have them as a top 3 team going into the postseason. I just think West Forsyth and North Paulding's at a different level currently, but that doesn't mean Lambert can't get there. And then Buford has been at the top all season. They've picked up some major wins. I think they were the only team that beat West Forsyth the whole season, so keeping them at the top. And then number 5, Mountain View, they debuted for the first time in my top 5. And then for the girls, it's Milton. Obviously, they've only lost out of state. They've played some of the top teams all year, and then go and they play top teams from Baltimore, Maryland, Virginia. So there's the only really losses were out of state. They've handled their business. Their last 2 wins combined 34 goals. So they are at the top for me. North Paulding still remains 2. The big drop right now, I'm kind of concerned, is Collins Hill. They were my number 3 last week. They are number 7 right now. And I have them number 7 because they've lost 3 straight games. They're number 4 right now in their area. They have a must-win game coming up. They just lost to Peachtree Ridge, who was unranked. They're 5-11 this season. Just lost last night. They have a big game coming up against Mountain View, which will determine if they get a postseason spot or not. So I got them kind of reeling right now. They are number 7 for me. And then big game actually is going to reveal this on my podcast on Thursday. Blessed Trinity actually is going to play Roswell this week. So that is a major game between those two. Close out the season. I'm going to have actually head coach for Roswell on Thursday's show to talk to him about their great season. So those two are going to actually match up. So I can't wait to see who comes out on top. I still got Blessed Trinity at the number 1 spot, but Roswell can get some good momentum going into the postseason. So I got 5A, 6A on the girls' side. Still got Blessed Trinity at the top. They beat the top 3 team in Class A 4A Fellowship Christian. So I got them up top. Creekview still at the top for me as well as Johns Creek and then Lakeside Evans. And then, 4A Wesleyan. I mean, on the boys' side, they've been balling out. They've won 12 consecutive games. So they've been doing really, really well. And then Benedictine, they beat Chapel Hill, the North Carolina team, 8-7. Their only loss, Benedictine, was to Greater Atlanta Christian. So still got them at the top of my rankings as well. And on the girls' side, Pace Academy, has been a force all season. So I got them at the top. And then Columbus is 16-1. They've continued to play really well. And that's basically it. That's how I kind of got it. And then I got Wesleyan back into the top 10 prior to the postseason. And I think I replaced Mount Pisgah. So that's what I got as far as the rankings.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see what the Johns Creek girls can do in the playoffs. They've had a historic season.
Yep. Similar to West Forsyth.
Yeah, that's huge for them.
Yep.
Had a couple losses, but man, they've been really competitive. And then who's it going to be? North Paulding lost to Walton in the semis last year.
Yeah.
Ended up getting beat in the championship, and then they come out, have a huge win for the region title. This is probably the best season they've ever had. And you square off with Lambert, West Forsyth, Buford in the postseason. I am really excited to see these lacrosse playoffs pan out. And I went to the state championship. It was at Fifth Third Bank Stadium at Kennesaw State a few years ago. It was one of the best high school environments I've ever seen. That place was packed. I had to park so far away. Everyone was out there. Just one game after another. They all came down to the very end. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. It's a tie game with 2 minutes left. You get a game-winning goal. It was lit.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Nice. But, I'm excited, too. I mean, any one of those 3 teams from that area that includes Buford, Lambert, and obviously West Forsyth could, I think, win the championship this season. They've all played well. They've all beaten up on each other. So I think that'll be intriguing as well. But, I think it's going to be a lit playoffs. It begins next week, April 24th. So it'll be a lot of fun.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you look at obviously there's great lacrosse teams in other states. The California has them. The Northeast has them, but Georgia as a whole, it's really growing. There's a ton of good teams here for sure.
Definitely. But we're going to leave it there for high school. College, no major news, as we mentioned, a couple transfers last week. Actually, Haley Van Lith, who played for Louisville, she actually visited LSU. So that was actually interesting. We'll see if she ends up transferring there, but she's trying to transfer out of Louisville. But no major news as far as there, but man, we got to talk about NFL as she's on the screen right now. Jalen Hurts, mega contract, 5 years, $255 million deal for Hurts, 179 million guaranteed, 126 million signing bonus as well. Highest paid player right now in NFL history. So before I get my thoughts, what are your thoughts on the deal? And yeah, what do you think about Hurts remaining in Philly for the foreseeable future?
Well, first, I'd like to thank the referees for last year's Super Bowl pick. No, I'm just kidding. I think Jalen Hurts, it's well deserved. The Eagles, when he wasn't out there with them, they weren't the same team. He's had great leadership. He's had big time performances. He's a great fit. Team obviously loves him. The fans love him. He's the quarterback of the future for Philadelphia. I think it's exciting. But yeah, that's huge. So it's not the biggest contract, but in terms of the annual value of it, it is the most of all time.
For sure. And he's getting paid more than Patrick Mahomes too. Is at 45 million, who's actually the market has displaced him, but still that's a lot of money. But I just love his story, right? He went to Alabama, he won a title there, he ended up getting replaced in the halftime of a championship game against Georgia. Tua Tagovailoa gets the title for Alabama. End up transferring to Oklahoma as a Heisman finalist. Played really well there. Got his team actually to a CFP, a college football playoff game. They did lose. I mean, that year Joe Burrow and that LSU team was just on another level. We all know that. But I just love his story. And then he came in, got drafted second overall. I mean, second round draft pick, actually, excuse me. And then, actually displaced Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz was pretty much a franchise player for Philly. We see what he's doing now. But I think they made a good move actually getting him then. Because question marks around Carson Wentz at that point too, even though he had led his team to a really good record. But, it's just the team didn't have the same kind of morale. And then you got a leader, a guy that, does good things on and off the field, helps his family, excuse me, helps his community. He's a leader, and you need that at quarterback position. And it doesn't seem like he's selfish. He looks like he's willing to sacrifice. I think a lot of guys, as you mentioned at the top, and I'm not trying to be in any way disrespectful, but I mean, some of these guys are not all. It's all about me, right? So you got Aaron Rodgers, who I used to love as a quarterback, but I mean, just think about the recent years, right? If you're a Packers fan, we paid you 3 years, 150 million, and you literally, right, are saying, okay, I'm gonna go play for the Jets this year, and each year. Like, he's like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to retire or not. Imagine having to deal with that agony as a fan. Like, I don't know if you're coming back or not every year, even though you're signing these contracts.
Especially when he dealt with it when he was behind Brett Favre, and then he does the same thing.
Literally the same thing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So just like, come on, bro. And then after that, I mean, Russell Wilson. I mean, we'll see how that pans out, right? I'm not going to say he's in that category, but Kyler Murray, right? All about me. You know what I'm saying? Deshaun Watson's behind him. Only one I would like on this list, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, right? He takes the team effect, right? Obviously his contract, you correct me if I'm wrong, Craig. Either is it backtrack where he gets a lot of his money, or was it front loaded that contract? I remember he got over like 200 million guaranteed.
I have it right here, the specifics of it.
Yeah.
Here we go. I had it somewhere around here, but
no worries.
Here's the point. The Eagles were, in my opinion, the best team in the NFL last year.
Right.
Look at how they came out against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They ended up losing because they didn't have an opportunity at the end. You look around the league, clearly this is your guy. You pay him. It stacks up well with everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for him.
I mean, he
deserved it.
He's better than most of the quarterbacks on that list. I mean, he's better
100%.
than, to me, he's better than Dak. He's better than Daniel Jones, who his contract was absurd. He's better than Stafford, I think. I mean, Rodgers, you can make the argument potentially. He's better than Murray. He's better than Wilson. Mahomes, you can make an argument. That's it. It's maybe two quarterbacks. I think he's better than Josh Allen, too. That's just me.
Yeah.
I'll take him over him, too.
It is crazy how different these are. I mean, you mentioned the
Yeah.
Mahomes one. That one's obviously stretched out more years, more than the 5 years.
Right.
$450 million.
Right.
But then the guarantees, it's
crazy.
crazy that you can have something stretched out $450 million, then you're getting 50-40% guaranteed, or the 5 years and it's the 70-80%.
Yeah.
I mean, these contract negotiations are so pivotal at the quarterback position. I always just found it crazy. If you think about it, you had a situation like when Andrew Luck, he had his big contract in Indianapolis. He's making like over a 4 or 5 year span, $200 million more than his teammates. They're playing the same game. That's how
which is
important
tough.
that's how important that quarterback position is. And so
Yeah.
front loading it, guaranteeing the percentages, that's obviously where we're at.
And then think about too, Craig, when you start stinking up the joint and you're playing terrible and you're getting paid
Yeah.
$200 more million than somebody else. Like imagine like that pressure that's on you too.
Yeah. Well, what if you're guaranteed and you're hurt, and then these guys are out there, defensive line or whatever, they're making 1 mil, 2 mil a year.
Yeah.
You're hurt and you're making 50. It's
Literally,
just crazy.
it's insane. But my biggest takeaway too is I'm glad to see him get paid. He's exceptional talent, great athlete, great thrower of the football. A lot of people question if he could throw it. Obviously, he has debunked that saying and myths, I think. So I'm happy to see him get paid. He's going to be a fixture for the Eagles, and I think they're going to be right at the top, contending, competing for championships for the next couple of years as well. My biggest thing though, I'm not gonna lie to you, Craig, I'm worried. I don't know what since he's doing, but we need to go ahead and sign Joe Burrow because all this market is going to do is continue to go up, go up, go up. So if he got paid $51 million, you're probably going to look at Burrow getting paid maybe $60 million potentially annual salary. So we need to go ahead and sign him quick, fast, and in a hurry before we'll see if Lamar gets his money, but obviously Justin Herbert's going to get his money. So yeah, we need to go ahead and sign Burrow and get him locked up for the next couple of years. I'm hoping for me, I don't really want it to be a short-term contract. 5 years is good, but I'd rather it be like, for an example, y'all gonna call me crazy whoever's watching this, but I would rather a Burrow contract be 10 years, 350 million, 200 mil guaranteed. I'd rather it be something like that because then I know, okay, I got Burrow for another 10 years. He's 26 years old. I'm gonna have him until he's 36 at probably the end of his prime. I would prefer a contract like that for Burrow. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I would prefer a longer term, something like what Mahomes got. Mahomes got, I think, like 10-year deal. I would prefer something like that for Burrow because I know, okay, we got our franchise quarterback, our star quarterback, who I think is going to give us a title one day, locked up for a very, very long time. So that is my hope. We will obviously see what happens, but all I know is that we need to get on it fast.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too because if that happens, let's say Cincy offers him a 7, 8 year, 10 year, he's locked down, but then you're gonna a lot of these other teams, they're just gonna be moving guys around like crazy. I think that's what we'll see. The other positions will move around more than ever, but you'll have that one quarterback at just a few of these teams that's locked in. So
and one thing I can say too, and I respect the Chiefs for doing this, is because what you guys did with Mahomes' contract, right? Everybody called you guys crazy for trading away or letting Tyreek Hill walk or trading and whatever. I can't remember exactly how it went down, but they say I were crazy for that, right? And then a year after, you win a title, right? So sometimes, like some positions, you're gonna have to make tough decisions. Where okay, hey, am I gonna let this guy walk, even though I know he's a star player, and rebuild basically young or do a 1-2 year rental with a player, or will I kind of be kind of vulnerable in this position like at the safety? So you guys just did that, right? You guys went younger, got a couple 1-year rentals. We'll see what happens with Kadarius Toney, right? And then you drafted young in the secondary, right? So my Bengals really just went through this, right? We had a star safety in Jesse Bates who got his bag, got the Bengals tried, but they didn't pay him, and we lost Von Bell, right? So now we have to go young, right? We had to go with Nick Scott, a free agent, 3-year deal. And then we got Dax Hill, who's only in the second year, right? And we'll see what happens in the secondary, what we do in the draft. So I feel like when you're a great team, these are the decisions you have to make, who you're going to keep, right? So we got to make the decision. Are we going to keep both? We're going to have to find money to keep both, either T. Higgins and Jamar Chase as well, along with Burrow. But then you're going to have to, compromise and sacrifice other areas of the team, right? You're not going to have the money to pay them. So I think you guys are a great example of that, pulling it off and having to be young in certain areas and having those young guys step up.
Yeah, what makes a great NFL franchise is one where the players develop and gain opportunities from playing there. That's what happened with the Chiefs.
Yep.
You had a situation where, okay, are we going to pay this guy? Well, then the Dolphins just offer basically 10 million more. It's like, okay, well, we just aren't going to match that. But then you bring in a bunch of receivers that have gotten experience at other teams, maybe 1 or 2 years. They come to Kansas City. They raise their own stock by how they perform, get another Super Bowl, and then they're able to make more money somewhere else. So some teams just feels like they're they aren't launch pads. They're just like places where, okay, let's try to get these guys. And it's literally like that's the final stages of their career, where other teams are actually building guys that are gaining value in the marketplace.
For sure. I mean, I totally agree with you. So it's gonna be intriguing, man. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I always like seeing the NFL offseason, and we are only a couple of weeks away from the draft. Correct?
Yep, can't wait for that.
I know, me too. I'm excited.
But no, that's huge. That's the ideal situation. You draft guys or bring them in when they're young. They're on their rookie contracts. You have that year that's an option or whatever. If they've done well enough, you either match them or they go on and make more money somewhere else. If you're in the position where you're the one that's having guys gain value on your team, you're in good shape. Where other teams are trying to basically poach the market to try to bring in these difference makers. It's just, that's the distinction. Are you developing and building players across the board? The Chiefs definitely are. Look at that. All those rookies last year defensively, every single one of those guys is building value for themselves.
For sure. We got a couple more times we're going to get to, but we throw it to the audience. You guys comment below on Twitch, on YouTube. If you have any questions you want to answer before we wrap up the show, we're throwing it to the audience. Appreciate the 2 to 3 people that have been tuning in this whole time. So thanks again for that. We're going to jump into NBA now. Some major news. Game 1. I mean, I told Craig this. I thought Game 1 was incredible. I thought it's some of the best basketball I have seen in a long time, and I've religiously watched NBA basketball religiously. And I honestly, Craig, there's nothing like the NBA playoffs, right? It's so much better. And you even said it yesterday. They should shorten the season, and they should. Unfortunately, they're not. They just signed a 6-year deal with the CBA that says now you have to play a minimum of 65 games to earn any awards in the NBA. So I think you're right. I think they should shorten the season down some. But obviously that plays into their sponsors and TV deals and all that stuff. But I think it's just better for the players. And you get, like, you see player like I seen the other night, right? For an example, Suns and Clippers, right? I seen Devin Booker diving on the floor. I seen Westbrook taking the challenge of guarding Devin Booker, guarding KD the whole game, and Chris Paul only limited them to 6 points when he was guarding them, right? I seen Kawhi Leonard diving on the ground for a loose ball. Like, that is what you want to see. And it sucks because the product is almost diluted in a sense during the regular season because you don't see that as much because the players are either always hurt or they're not giving that maximum effort. It's almost like they go at 60, 70% during the season because they have to play so many games. But I do love the fact that, the playoffs and, how it goes and things like that. It's really, really incredible. And, I mean, I really enjoy the game ones. I mean, the real quick sounds for I throw it to you, Craig. Obviously, the Suns and Clippers game was great. I thought the Warriors and Kings, that first game was great. We'll obviously talk about the game that happened last night. But that game 1 was incredible as well. And then the Knicks and Cavs, that series, I think it's going 7 games. I said it on my own YouTube page. I can't wait to see what that game 2 is going to look like tonight. But what other matchups did you
I mean, great first-round series, but even the play-in games were exciting. When you watch that Lakers game with Dennis Schroeder getting the game-winning shot, the corner 3, the entire stadium or arenas erupting at once, that's playoff basketball. It's no knock on the regular season. It just is what it is. You're trying to preserve yourself. You're figuring things out. Once the playoffs come, you can just see the difference. It's just incredible. And I do like that Clippers-Suns matchup.
I love it.
And I mean, there's a lot of history between Kawhi and KD. They've had some great series. They used to square off the Spurs Thunder, great moments. And so they're familiar with each other's game. I think that'll be a fun one to the end for sure.
The 2019 finals, too, when Toronto played them as well. KD got hurt. Yeah, I mean, I think it's incredible. And it's going to be obviously some legacy-defining things there, too, because no Paul George for the Clippers. KD lose game 1. Can they win game 2, which is tonight at 10? They got a big game against them tonight. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. But, yeah, I mean, Warriors right now, we'll talk about that really quick. They're down 2-0. Rough game. I'm not going to lie to you. We're going to kind of play the clip, but was it a dirty play? You can make the argument it was. But I can't blame Draymond, right? The guy, and we're going to show the clip actually really quick, too, and share our screen. But
watch the end of this play.
You probably didn't see it, but
as he goes down, watch him.
Okay, so here's the clip.
Now watch.
All right, so let's analyze it a little bit, right? So here's Monk, shoots the shot. right?
As he
Boom.
goes down, watch him
No
grab
good.
Draymond.
Okay,
right
look
there.
at, and we're gonna go back. Look at Sabonis, right?
As he goes
Now
down,
he flops right here. Look at
as
him
he
grabbing
goes down,
Clay,
watch him grab
flops,
Draymond. Right there.
right? And then he grabs Draymond's
Now
ankle.
that right there
Now that's not justified. I'm saying
is where the foul
him
came
stomping
in.
on him. But I mean, again, you're about to go run. You could argue that's
So
a
he
take
grabs
foul.
Draymond's
'Cause
leg
why are
right
you grabbing
there.
his
Now
ankle?
Draymond
You
steps
saw he
on him.
kind of pulled his ankle too. So I'm not saying that was justified. I'm not saying Draymond should have done that. But what I am saying is that I don't understand, why he wasn't more penalized. They just gave him a tech for that. You initiated that. It's not like Draymond, okay, I'm pulling your leg and I'm going to stomp on you. It's not like now Draymond does have a history. He does not help himself. But at the same time, that really affected the game because Golden State could not get a stop pretty much after that. They changed blows, yada, yada, but the Kings pulled away, get the 2-0, obviously series lead. But what do you think of seeing that play? And what do you think overall of what happened?
I think first off, if there's a guy 6'10", 270, 260 falling into your ankle, shin, knee, that's a problem. That's how you get injured right there. Guys flopping down, falling towards your ankles. You got to stay up. So, yeah, he was at jeopardy of getting injured. And then we've seen situations before where people will grab onto someone's ankle and then that can twist it. That can hurt it. I just think it obviously was excessive to leap off him like that.
Oh, for sure.
But
I think so
but
too.
yeah, I mean, guys falling into you, you do what you can to jump over them, jump on them. Don't let them roll up into your legs. That's how you get injured.
No, exactly. So, I mean, what he said at the end of the game, I didn't really agree with for Sabonis. I mean, like I said, I think he initiated. We'll see if Draymond gets suspended. He doesn't help his cause, obviously, with, the plays he's had over the years. But again, I think at the same token, I think it should have been flagrant one on both. I mean, that was excessive. And he killed the fast break, too. So it should have been a take foul, I think, as well. But nonetheless, Warriors down 2-0. Steph has struggled in this series a little bit. Had a decent game one. Didn't shoot the ball really well in game 2. 3 for 13 from 3. I just think overall for Golden State, one, it's tough because you got your top assistant from last year that you had for years knows your team inside out, right? They know what Curry's going to run. They know what Clay's going to run. They know how to get the ball, in their hands. So Mike Brown knows all this, right? He's telling his team, the different tendencies that they have because he knows them so well because he used to coach as a lead assistant for the Warriors. So he knows all this being the opposing coach with the Kings. So what Golden State has to do is their bigs, Draymond, Kevon Looney, Gary Payton II. What they're going to have to do in the next game is they have to get more easier shots, right? So when they come off the pick and roll, you have Mitchell or you have Monk or you have Fox who are getting pick and roll, and then you have Sabonis who's getting into action, right? I think they need to put somebody else into action. But let's say you continue to put Sabonis into action. Sabonis is staying there until they're doubling Steph. So it makes Steph have to get rid of the ball, right? So Steph has to pass the ball, and then they're going to slide down to the paint, and then they're still looking for the shooters. So what the problem is going on with Golden State is that they're staying connected, right? They're staying connected to Steph, they're staying connected to Clay, which is probably Mike Brown is employing for them. And then when they get a rebound or a miss, they're pushing the break and putting pressure on the defense of the Warriors. That's their best chance to score, right? So what Golden State has to do is they have to tell their bigs, okay, as soon as you set the screen and it's done, dive down to the paint and get an easy jumper or crash down the defense, right? So then you get open shots. So the problem is Golden State is struggling with getting open shots and open looks. Everything is contested. Everything is tough, all that. So Kevon Looney has to play better. Jordan Poole has to play better. They paid you $100 million, dog. You know what I'm saying? They paid you $100 million. Jordan Poole had 2 points and was 1 for 7. That ain't gonna cut it, right? That straight up, that's not gonna cut it, right? You have to be better, right? So obviously they've been, horrible on the road all year long. We know the record I think it was 11-30, 11-32, whatever. So hopefully they can be better at home. I'm not gonna say they're finished yet. 2-3-4, 2-3. I know you always watch our shows. We appreciate you for sure. I don't think they're finished yet, but I do think they gotta win. If they don't win these next 2 games, they're in trouble and they could be done. But I'm not going to say it's over. They need Draymond to control himself better. But that's what they need to do. That's the big thing in this series right now that's happening on the offensive end. And they got to find a way to slow down Malik Monk and obviously De'Aaron Fox. They cannot keep letting him come off the screen and be able to have open jumpers and open slashes to the paint with open floaters. They're going to either have to double that, or they're going to have to find a way to collapse the defense and bring a little bit more. So that's my thoughts on that. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate the love and what I think they need to do. But what do you think, Craig?
I definitely wouldn't count them out.
No.
That's one of the things we pointed out is their home record is incredible. The Kings, they haven't really made the big playoff runs in a while. I think they'll respond. So Draymond, he's not going to get suspended or anything.
I don't know.
That could be a question.
That's a question.
Yeah,
I don't think he should be suspended, but he could be. I don't think he should be, though, because he initiated it, but he has a history.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they do, honestly. It will be tough. I do think they'll win this next one, and then we'll see. I'd say at this point, probably like a 60s, 70% chance the Kings take this one.
Okay. All right. We're going to see. And yes, FSU is cooking. Y'all are top 5 right now. Y'all have 5 Georgia recruits that we mentioned at the beginning of the show. So FSU is doing their thing, man. So
we really like the ACC next year.
We do.
It's wide open. The opportunity is there.
Yes.
Someone's got to step up.
Yes. So I've already been saying that I think Georgia Tech's going to have a great season next year. Not saying they're going to go to college football playoff. Not saying they're going to be an ACC championship game. But I do think Georgia Tech will be competing and will have I'm going to come out and say this, a plus 500 record next year. Yeah, I know that's bold, but Clemson, I got Georgia Tech in there. Miami, we'll see. And then obviously Florida State's in there. But great question. Let's answer this right now, Craig, from 23423. The series interests me, but who makes it out of the Knicks Cavs series? All right. So, Knicks Cavs. Donovan Mitchell needs some help. Okay. He had 38 in game 1, right? He needs some help, okay? Evan Mobley got straight out punked. I'm sorry. It got to be said. Julius Randle manhandled him in the first one. And he's a defensive player of the year candidate before Jaren Jackson won it. I mean, flat out, he was just going in the paint, was just more out physical than him and all that. So I think he has to play better in game 2. And I think the problem is, too, Darius Garland, he's not aggressive enough. And I don't think Isaac Okoro, he can't really shoot like that. So those two are going to have to bring up and step up their game and be able to, be better in drop coverage. And I think Donovan Mitchell is going to have to take the challenge of Garland, Jalen Brunson, especially towards the end of the game, because he has a clutch factor in the clutch gene, and he was exposing Cedi Osman in the pick and roll or just in coverage in general. Who I think is going to win? I got Knicks in 7. I think the Cavs are going to steal this one at home and make it 1-1, but I think this is a 7-game series. I think it's going to be the best series in the East as far as round 1 goes. Both teams are evenly matched. Both teams have great players. But I got Knicks in 7.
I'll go Cleveland in 7.
Ooh.
The Knicks will Knicks.
It's just, he said the Knicks will
They
Knicks.
will. They will. It's the way it works for them.
That is funny.
I have too many Knicks fans as friends. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, growing up.
Wow. I mean, I get it. The Knicks one. I think Jalen, and I think this hurt the Mavs this year, right? The Mavs didn't get into the playoffs, right? They struggle, and Jalen Brunson walked into the Knicks. I think Brunson is such a difference maker that he's going to be able to get those shots and create offensively for others, and I think that's what hurts the Cavs in this series, right? Because they can't really account for him. I think they'll try different things to throw at him, but I think his play is going to be crucial in the Knicks advancing in this series.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I do think it will go 7, though.
Yeah.
One of the closer ones, I mean, it's not as up-tempo, high-scoring. They're going to go blow to blow the entire series. I just think it will come down to the end.
Our fan is not a fan of Randall. I do think he does a little too much sometimes, though. I can't disagree with you there as far as doing the most. But we're going to see, man. The game tonight is going to be good. I'm probably not going to watch the Hawks game. I'm going to try to go to actually a Hawks game. They play Friday and Sunday. I'm going to see how tickets look. I might try to go to the game on Sunday, but I think that'll be interesting there. He says, Wizard fan, I'll be rooting for the Kings. Interesting. Wizards. Okay, we're going to see. That's going to be interesting. But Right, before we go on the big news that happened in our state, so anything else as far as NBA or news across professional that you want to talk about before we
I
transition
think
there?
one of the exciting things in the playoffs, you get to see what teams have a bench and what teams don't. And
So true.
and there's guys that will come off, have incredible performances, 24 points. There's some teams that literally don't even like get double digits from their bench. That's crazy.
Hmm.
So I think that's something that's always interesting to see.
That's
Who's
a good
utilizing their
point.
bench, who's coming off with that role where they can just come out there, provide those points. You aren't bringing guys off the bench to haul in rebounds. You want to score off
I
the
say play
bench.
defense too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, good point. Last question for NBA.
I think the Sixers, I mean, you just see how much deeper they are.
Yeah. No, good point. Actually, last point on NBA. I want to throw this to you and get your thoughts, right? We had a writer that came out for Athletic and said they should ban the charge in the NBA, which I think is absurd. Right? You don't ban the charge, right? If anything, you extend it out more. You make the restricted area higher up, if anything. But I think that is the only way you'll be able to stop players because it's already an offensive-driven league, right? It's already tough to stop players, right? So that was what came out after Ja Morant got hurt with his wrist injury and after Antetokounmpo got hurt. So, one, do you think that the charge should be banned? And then two, what do you think of those injuries to Ja Morant and Giannis Antetokounmpo? Will it affect the series? Will they be able to still win?
Well, I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
I like the Lakers in that one to beat Memphis. I'd have to look at his argument for it. What the alternative would be. I mean, what do you do if someone comes driving the lane out of control? You're saying it's no offensive fouls?
Yeah, basically saying like you can't take a charge. Like basically like let's take the charge out of the game. Like you would have to defend. You can't go like this and stand up. Basically, essentially.
Interesting. So they would call it almost like the equivalent of like a. So if you even put yourself in that position, it'd be like an illegal block almost,
right?
Like a chop block or something.
Yeah. So they're trying not saying they're bad, but that's what the writer said.
Ooh, that's tough because I wonder what percentage of charges. Do you think in order to draw a charge, you have to be like intending to draw it? I think sometimes I remember watching like Shaq back in the day. He'd catch on the post and then guys just go back immediately. They'll call the foul.
Yeah,
time it right.
It's tough because you got guys that flop.
Yeah.
So you have to be cognizant of that, and then you got guys that are trying to like legit take a charge to slow the guy down. So I think the part that they have to maybe eradicate or try to implement is not letting it when the guy takes off. So imagine you being in the air and the guy taking that's why I said extending it out more where it stops it before it goes. But once the guy's in the air, that's pretty dangerous. I think that's the only part to me I think I would fix.
Yeah.
Because like where it's at, bringing it up a little bit more so that the guy ain't taking off and then, you're right there and I'm trying to avoid you and then boom, my hand or, my body's going all the way down full speed. I think that's the only part I would say.
I think my favorite play is when someone's trying to draw a charge and they just get dunked on.
Yeah, that is pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie.
You tried.
Yeah, you tried, but you didn't successful. But we got another question on college football, and we're gonna transition. It says, do you see Jeff Sims starting at Nebraska and performing well? I know he committed to Georgia Tech. His time there was okay. Obviously he moved to Nebraska, but I don't know much about Nebraska, but I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. For me personally, I'm gonna have to research it more and kind of get back to that question. I'll be being honest, being completely transparent, because I know his career at Georgia Tech was not the best, but I have to look and see what Nebraska has for a talent perspective. I know recently they haven't been doing the best, but I'm gonna research that one. I'm gonna answer that on the next show for sure.
Yep, same. I've not looked into that.
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you there. We appreciate the question, but I haven't looked too much into that. But next week, when we back at 12 noon, we're going to answer that question for you. So come back again next week, 23423. Appreciate the question. All right, last one for today. New project in Forsyth County, bigger than the Battery with a new 18,500 seat arena. Rumors circulating around possibly trying to lure in a new NHL team in Georgia. So what do you think of that? And I mean, the renderings are incredible. Let me have you seen the renderings?
Yes.
You have?
Yes. Well, I glanced at them. I didn't look at all of it.
Let's look at it really quick.
Nothing inside what it would look like.
Okay, let's look at it real quick. I'm gonna have the audience. You guys look at this too. I think this is absolutely incredible. Let me pull up my Twitter page.
What's it going to be called? Is it Gateway or something?
The Gathering at
the
Forsyth.
Gathering,
Yep, that is what it's going to be called. Let's see. Got all these commitments and stuff. It might be in my likes. Let me see. Y'all bear with me 1 second, guys. I want y'all to see this too. Okay,
there it is.
Here it is. Boom. All right, so let's actually share the screen with you guys really quick. All right, where are you at? Boom. Share. All right, so I want you guys to look at this. All right, so this is the one. I mean, I think this is absolutely incredible. Look how big this is and, kind of how it looks. I mean, this right here is incredible. Look at the little kind of outward lawn right here. Look at the nice little, renderings right here. Hotel is going to be there. I think there's going to over 450 people or 450 different rooms potentially. Just look at the outward background. I mean, I think just absolutely incredible. There was a couple more. Zach Klein from WSB TV. Okay, these are good too. I want you to see these. Okay, boom. Look at that one. That'll obviously be the stadium, box office, yada, yada. I think that one's great. We just seen that one in this one. I just don't think it's enough seats. I mean, 18,500. I mean, come on, man. I think you got to do a little bit better than that. I mean, like we said at the top, about 25,000 to 30,000, I think, potentially. But the allure and the economy of Forsyth County is going to go up so much with the building of this $1 billion stadium. What do you think?
100%. So Forsyth County in the last decade has grown by 47%. I think it's the 18th fastest growing county in the country, number one in Georgia. People are moving up there. It's not just because of Forsyth County, what's surrounding it. Buford, you have the North Fulton area. They're talking about putting this in South Forsyth. So that's over by Alpharetta, Milton, Johns Creek. All these areas haven't built something to this scale, but they built the Avalon in Alpharetta. That's been a huge success. They've got the Avalon Hotel, all these different stores. They built the Halcyon. That's off, I think, a couple exits like McFarland Road or exit 12. That one was $370 million. It was opening in 2019. All those businesses kind of got hit by 2020 and COVID, but now that thing's booming.
Right.
So the land area is available. In terms of all these cities around it, the ones that are also going to benefit from it, it's just a project that's going to help so many different areas around it. And then that's why these cities incorporate. That is the landscape in Georgia. Atlanta is the main driving force. There's so much going on there.
Yep.
But then you have Sandy Springs. There's all the Fortune 500 companies there. North Fulton has been known for its IT jobs, all the technology companies that are working there. And then there's great schools. So it's honestly, it's not even that far from our office at this point.
No, it's not.
That's a couple exits up. So, I mean, that's really exciting. I wanted to look up what that seating kind of compares to the Gwinnett Arena. Let me look that up real quick because
that's interesting.
I've been to arena football games there. Obviously, they play lacrosse there as well.
Right. Okay. Interesting point. He says it fits the Hawks, in my opinion, with the luxury to it, but I know it's a bit far out from Atlanta. Yeah, it is a little bit of a drive, but you got to think too, man. Another point to that. Obviously, you got the Atlanta teams, right? You got the Atlanta Falcons. You got the Atlanta Hawks are in downtown. But think about this too. I mean, the Braves play at SunTrust Park out there in Marietta. That's a little far out too, if you think about it too. For their team, right? That's kind of outside of, Atlanta, obviously Metro Atlanta. So, I mean, luxury wise, I agree with you. I think that's a good point. But
gas south is 13,000.
So about 5,500 more seats. I mean, we'll see. I think too they could use it for other events too.
Yeah, that's 100% what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Same thing as the Battery.
Mm-hmm.
It's always popping on the weekend. There's always things to do, but that is the main difference. Obviously, Battery with baseball, there's just so many home games.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's going to be a big opportunity, and I definitely think you would put that arena there for a potential hockey team, which would be crazy. Who would have thought that an NHL team would return to South Forsyth? No one had that.
no. But looks like that could be potentially
Yeah,
in the
Laura is
works.
happy. Laura
Yeah,
still
she's-
dreams of going to those Thrashers games.
Yeah, she's excited. But that's all we got. Any more things you want to hit on before we wrap up?
No, I'm just God, my voice. It's been rough
You're
this
struggling.
week. I am really struggling, but
You're
I'll be
struggling.
back. I'll rest up and hopefully have some guests on tomorrow. But
Right, you need to take a day off, man.
I
As far as
thought
this,
about it. I
You know,
thought
for
about it.
Wednesday, you know, might have to just do the show on Friday, man. Recover, man.
Possibly.
Yeah, man. But before we wrap, 2343, we throw it to the audience. We appreciate the 5 tuning in. Remember, we're live every Tuesday at noon on YouTube, on Twitch. So definitely tap in. Any questions for you guys that are tuning in before we wrap up the show for today? Comment below. We're gonna give it about a minute or so, and then we're gonna close it out.
But yeah, you think about that area also. It's like all the Atlanta Falcons, all the professional players. It's just true. Where are they living? They're living in Johns Creek. They're living in Milton. They're living in Alpharetta. That's where a lot of the party is. I mean, they're out on Lake Lanier. That's
Yeah.
where it's at. So
Yeah.
it's not Atlanta, but a lot's going on up there. It really is.
For sure. Let's say we got one final question. He says, not much left related to college football or NBA, but will y'all be watching Champions League games today? I will be watching the Chelsea game. We played terrible in the first leg. We've lost, I think, 4 or 5 straight. We look absolutely terrible. We are at home, fortunately. We're down 2-0 right now in the aggregate. We'll see if we can, strum something together. But I don't know, man. It's rough. All I'm hoping is that they're competitive. That's my only hope right now. This is a wash of the season. So that's my biggest hope. But yeah, I will watch some of the games obviously today. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'll check it out. And it reminds me of you had Westminster's coach on. He was a fun soccer coach.
Yeah, no, he was. He's actually
like I'm like a spy. I love just finding their weaknesses and exploiting them. I'm like, all right.
He sounded so old school too.
Yeah.
That's what I love. Like, defense is the only way you're gonna win. That's what stood out to me. Like, you're not gonna play for me unless you play defense.
Yep.
But he's actually a Tennessee fan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He was actually excited when I talked about the news that Merklinger was going there. He was like, yo, I love that. Yeah. So, but that's all we got for you guys. Appreciate the people tuning in, the 5. Make sure you shoot us a follow if you're not already on YouTube and on Twitch. Go to scoretl.com for all of the major news and happenings. Rankings are up there as well, major stories. Craig, when is that story going to drop on the anniversary and everything?
That'll probably be either today or tomorrow. I know we're still working on it. So
stay tuned to that. And I appreciate it too. Again, 23423. Appreciate the comment, man, and always staying engaged in the tune. We will see y'all next week for another episode of Underrated and Overlooked. And have a great rest of the week. We out. Peace.